In July of 2004, a young woman stepped off the south rim of the Grand Canyon on legs that had carried her through a marathon. Her name was Margaret Bradley. She was 24 from Chicago, and she was in the kind of shape most of us only talk about. She had trained for distance. She had the discipline. When she set out to hike one of the long, punishing routes deep in the inner canyon, she did it the way a serious athlete does anything, with confidence and a plan. She hiked with a friend, and the route they chose was an ambitious one, the kind of loop that looks reasonable on a map and turns into something else entirely on the ground. They went in the heart of summer, when the canyon floor turns into something closer to an oven than a trail. Somewhere down in that heat, their water ran low, and then it ran out. They got separated trying to find more. Her friend eventually made it out and raised the alarm. Margaret Bradley did not. When search teams found her days later, out in that brutal country below the rim, the cause of death was not a fall, it was not a rock slide or a flash flood or a wild animal. It was heat. It was dehydration. It was her own strong body, pushed past the line the canyon draws in silence. Think about that for a second. A marathon runner, someone who could push through pain most of us will never experience. Killed in a single afternoon, not by the drop that everyone fears when they lean over that railing, but by the air, the sun, and the climb back out. And here's the part that should stop you cold. Margaret Bradley was not careless. She was not reckless. She was fit, prepared, and doing almost exactly what thousands of people do every single summer in this park. The canyon killed her anyway. And it did it with the one weapon that almost nobody standing at the rim is watching for. Because the deadliest thing in the Grand Canyon isn't the fall. Stand at the edge of the Grand Canyon for the first time, and your body reacts before your brain does. Your stomach tightens. Your hand finds the railing. Every instinct you have screams the same warning. One step too far, and you are gone. And that fear is real. People do fall here. Over the long history of this park, falls are one of the biggest ways it has claimed lives, and we are not going to pretend otherwise. But the fall you are picturing right now, the innocent slip, the tourist quietly losing their balance while admiring the view and vanishing over a guardrail, that specific nightmare is rare. It happens, but it is not what fills the reports. There is a book that keeps the honest record of how people die in this canyon. It is called Over the Edge, Death in Grand Canyon, and two authors spent years cataloging every death they could confirm, from the first recorded fatalities all the way to the modern day. Hundreds of them going back to the earliest days of exploration in this place. And when you sit with that record, you are not reading a list of freak accidents. You are reading a pattern repeated over and over across more than a century, with the same handful of causes coming up again and again. The canyon rarely reaches out and pulls a careful person off the rim. What it does instead is quieter and slower and far more common. It lets you walk in feeling great, and then it goes to work on you in places you cannot see it happening. Heat, dehydration, exhaustion on the climb out, the heart giving out 1,000 feet below the rim, the cold shock of the river, and a strange, cruel killer that comes from drinking too much water. These are the deaths that fill the record, and every single one of them is more preventable and more misunderstood than the drop you are staring at. So let us walk you through how it actually happens, one killer at a time, because once you understand the mechanism, you will never look at that pretty overlook the same way again. Here is what the Grand Canyon does better than almost any dangerous place on Earth. It looks safe. You drive up in an air-conditioned car, you park in a paved lot, you catch a clean shuttle bus that loops the rim every few minutes. There are gift shops and water fountains and rangers in pressed uniforms. There are stone walls at the popular overlooks, families taking pictures, Kids running around in flip-flops and sandals. It feels managed. It feels handled. It feels like a national park is a kind of outdoor museum, where the exhibits behind the glass cannot possibly hurt you. Then you look down at the trail, and the illusion only gets stronger. The Bright Angel Trail is wide, graded, and beautifully maintained. It switchbacks down the canyon wall in gentle, even steps. In the first quarter mile, you pass people of every age strolling along, smiling, taking selfies. Nothing about it screams danger. It looks like a nice walk downhill on a sunny day. It looks, honestly, like a theme park attraction. And that is exactly the trap. Because a maintained trail is not a safe trail. It is a well-built path leading straight into one of the most extreme environments in North America. The pavement ends, the shade ends, the cell signal ends, the friendly crowds thin out, and the thing that never ends, the thing that is always waiting down there below you, is the heat. The people who guard this place know it. The National Park Service runs a whole program here just to keep hikers from becoming statistics. A preventive search and rescue effort with rangers and volunteers stationed along the trails, handing out water, watching for the early signs of trouble, and talking exhausted people into turning around. They station them there because they have learned the hard way exactly where and when hikers start to fall apart. And even with all of that effort, the teams here run hundreds of rescue operations in a single year. Heat exhaustion, collapse on the climb out. People who went a little too far down and simply could not get back up under their own power. We have watched folks head down that first mile, grinning, in cotton shirts with a single small water bottle, telling us they will just go down a little way and turn around. And too often, we already had a bad feeling about which ones we would be looking for by nightfall. They were not stupid. They were not lazy. They were fooled. The canyon is very, very good at fooling people, and it starts fooling them before they even leave the parking lot. So let us start with the killer that does the most damage, the one hiding in plain sight. Temperature. Up on the south rim, you are standing at around 7,000 feet above sea level. In summer, a morning up there can be genuinely pleasant. 70s, a light breeze, blue sky. You step onto the trail in comfortable weather, and your whole body tells you everything is fine. There is even a second, quieter cost to that elevation. The air at 7,000 feet is thinner than your body is used to, and it quietly saps your capacity before you ever feel out of breath. You are already working with less in the tank than you think you are. But the canyon has a secret, and it is written into the rock. As you descend, the temperature climbs. Not a little, a lot. Roughly 5.5 degrees hotter for every 1,000 feet you drop. The walls trap the heat like an oven and throw it back at you from every direction, from above and from the stone beneath your boots. And the air gets thicker and hotter with every switchback. So do the math on that pleasant 70-degree morning. By the time you reach the Colorado River at the bottom, you have dropped nearly a mile straight down. That comfortable 70 can become 110, 115, sometimes 120 degrees. It is not a hike anymore. It is a walk into a furnace, one step at a time, while your body keeps insisting the weather is fine, because it still remembers the rim. And in that dry desert air, the danger hides even better. When you sweat in the Grand Canyon, you often do not feel wet, because the sweat evaporates off your skin almost the instant it appears. You do not see the water pouring out of you, you just feel a little tired, a little off, while your body burns through its reserves at a rate you have no way of sensing. That is the cruelty of it. You cannot feel the trap closing. There is no dramatic moment where the heat hits you like a wall. It builds slowly and patiently, degree by degree, while you are distracted by the view and the easy downhill and the sound of your own footsteps. And by the time your body finally sounds the alarm, You are deep in the oven, hours from the rim, with the hardest part of the entire day still in front of you, because now you have to turn around and climb. Which brings us to the second killer, and it is a mental one as much as a physical one. The descent feels easy. Going down is a gift. Gravity does the work for you. Your lungs feel fine, your legs feel fresh, and mile after mile slips by while you barely notice the effort. You feel strong, you feel capable, and you start to think, if it is this easy, I can go a little further, just to that next viewpoint, just down to see the river up close. Just a bit more. That feeling is the most dangerous emotion in the entire canyon. Consider what people casually decide to do down there. A hike to the river and back is not a stroll. From the south rim, getting down to the Colorado and climbing back up is a full day of hard effort, thousands of feet of descent, and then thousands of feet straight back up, over a distance that rivals a marathon in desert heat. The park signs beg people not to try it in a single day in summer. And people try it anyway because the first few miles felt so easy that the whole thing seemed manageable. Because every step down is a step you have to earn back later, in worse heat, with less water, on tired legs, at the hottest part of the day. There's a saying the rangers here live by, printed on the warning signs at the trailhead. Down is optional, up is mandatory. You can always choose to stop descending, you can never choose to skip the climb out. And the climb out is a different animal entirely. Now gravity is against you. Now the temperature is at its afternoon peak. Now you are dehydrated, your energy is gone, and every switchback that felt gentle on the way down feels like a staircase with no top. People who felt like athletes at 10 in the morning are sitting in whatever sliver of shade they can find by 2 in the afternoon, unable to take another step. The canyon lets you spend your entire savings account on the easy half of the day. Then it hands you the bill on the half where you have nothing left to pay it. Quick thing before we keep going. If this is opening your eyes to what really happens down there, do us a favor and tap that like button. It genuinely helps this video reach the next person who still thinks the guardrail is the only thing worth fearing. All right, back to the trail. Now, let us talk about water, because water in the Grand Canyon is where things get strange. Start with the obvious. 1. Dehydration. In that kind of heat, on that kind of climb, your body can sweat out more than a liter of water every single hour. Every hour. Most day hikers head down carrying maybe 1 to 3 liters total. You can already see the problem. You are burning through your entire water supply faster than you can possibly replace it, and there is no faucet waiting for you at the bottom of a canyon. And heat illness does not arrive all at once. It climbs a ladder, and each rung is more dangerous than the last. First come the heat cramps, muscles seizing up as the salt and water drain out of you. Then heat exhaustion, when you go pale and clammy and dizzy, your heart racing, your stomach turning. That is the warning stage, the last honest signal your body will send you. If you stop there, rest, cool down, and drink, you can still walk away. But if you push through it, the way a determined hiker is trained to push through discomfort, you reach the top rung. Heat stroke. That is when the body's cooling system fails completely, the core temperature spikes, and the brain starts to cook. Confusion, slurred speech, collapse, and heat stroke in the inner canyon, hours from any help, is very often a death sentence. As you dry out, before it ever gets that far, your body starts shutting down the non-essentials to protect the core. Your thinking gets foggy. Your judgment slips right at the moment you need it most. You stop making good decisions about when to rest and when to turn around. The canyon does not just wear out your legs. It quietly switches off the part of your brain that would have saved you. So the lesson seems simple. Drink lots of water. Drink constantly. Never stop drinking. Accept that advice, followed too well, kills people too. This is the beat almost nobody in these videos will tell you about. And it is the one that saves lives. It is called hyponatremia. Here is what happens. When you sweat, you do not just lose water. You lose salt, sodium, the electrolytes your entire body runs on. Your system depends on a careful balance between water and salt, and heavy sweating drains the salt right out of you. Now picture a hiker who has been warned about dehydration, so they are doing the responsible thing, drinking water all day long. Plain water, bottle after bottle after bottle. But they are only replacing the water. They are not replacing the salt. So the balance tips the other way. The sodium in their blood gets diluted, thinner and thinner, until the cells of the body begin to swell with all that excess water, including the cells in the brain. And here is the twist that makes it so deadly. The early symptoms of drinking too much water look almost exactly like the symptoms of dehydration: nausea, headache, confusion, fatigue. So the hiker feels sick, assumes they must be dehydrated, and does the one thing guaranteed to make it worse. They drink more water, they drink their way into a seizure, in the worst cases, into a coma, all while trying their absolute hardest to do everything right. The people most at risk are often not the reckless ones. They are the careful, slower hikers who sip water constantly all day, skip the snacks, and never think for a second that being conscientious could be the thing that hurts them. That is the Grand Canyon in a single story. You can die of thirst down there, and you can die of drinking. The only thing that keeps you on the narrow path between the two is salt and electrolytes and real food and the humility to understand that more is not always better. And there is one more way the water itself can kill you, right at the bottom, when you think the hard part is finally over. The Colorado River. After a long, blistering hike down, that river looks like paradise. Cool, clear, moving fast. Every instinct in your overheated body tells you to jump in. But the water pouring through the inner canyon comes out from deep at the base of a dam upstream. And it is shockingly cold. Far colder than the summer air ever hints at. Cold enough to steal the breath right out of your lungs the second you go under. Cold enough to seize your muscles when you need them most. Add a powerful current, hidden undertows, and a body already exhausted and dehydrated from the climb down. And that inviting water becomes one of the deadliest spots in the entire park. People have hiked all the way to the river, survived the heat, felt the worst was behind them, and then drowned in the reward. There is another killer down there, and it does not care how much water you carried or how much salt you packed. The heart. The climb out of the Grand Canyon is one of the most demanding things a casual hiker will ever ask their body to do. You are gaining thousands of feet of elevation, in extreme heat, at altitude, when you are already worn down to nothing. That is an enormous strain on the cardiovascular system, the kind of sustained load most people never place on their hearts in ordinary life. And, for some people, especially men over the age of about 40, that strain finds a weakness they never knew they had. Cardiac events are one of the most common ways people die in this canyon. And notice when it happens. Not on the way down, when everything feels easy and gravity is your friend. On the way up or resting partway up, when the body is redlining and the heart is being pushed harder than it has been pushed in years, maybe harder than it has ever been pushed. There is rarely a warning shot. One moment a person is resting on a rock catching their breath, and the next they are gone, on a trail where the nearest defibrillator might as well be on the moon. The heartbreaking part is that many of these people had no idea they were at risk. They passed their last physical. They felt fine at the rim that morning. They were not doing anything they thought was crazy, just hiking back to their car before dinner. But the combination of heat, altitude, exertion, and dehydration is a stress test no doctor ever gave them, administered in a place where an ambulance simply cannot drive up and reach them. And that is the thread running through all of this. The canyon does not need to do anything violent to kill you. It just has to keep being the canyon, hot and high and steep and completely indifferent, while your body quietly reaches a limit you never saw coming. So now, finally, let us come back to the fall, the thing you feared from the very first second. Falls do kill people in the Grand Canyon. We were honest about that at the start, and we will be honest about it now. Over the decades, a great many lives have ended at the bottom of a drop in this park. But when you actually look at how those falls happen, the story is not the one you have been imagining. The careful visitor, standing behind the railing, admiring the view, who simply loses their balance and slips over the edge, that is not the common story. It happens, and every one is a tragedy, but it is genuinely rare. What is far more common is this. Someone climbs over the railing, someone steps off the maintained trail onto loose rock, someone backs up for a better photo with their eyes on the phone instead of their feet. Someone hops out to a ledge just beyond the safe zone to get the shot their friends will envy online. The camera deserves its own mention here, because it has changed the shape of these deaths. In the age of the perfect photo, people take risks at the edge that no one would have taken for a memory alone. They turn their backs to a 1,000-foot drop to fit their own face in the frame. They lean out over nothing, phone held high, trusting a footing they never actually checked. And the canyon, which has no opinion about photography, does what a 250-million-year-old cliff does when a person leaves solid ground. Nothing at all. It simply stops holding them up. So even the fall, the death you feared most, is mostly not the canyon reaching out for you. It is a moment of human decision made in a place that does not forgive them. Which means the real danger here was never the edge. It was us. Our confidence, our choices, and our quiet certainty that the rules and the railings were written for someone else. And that is the question worth sitting with. Why do smart, capable, careful people keep dying in a place with paved trails and warning signs on every corner? Part of the answer is something the rangers see over and over, a kind of tunnel vision that sets in on a hard hike. Call it summit fever, or in this canyon, river fever. You get an idea fixed in your head. Reach the river, finish the loop, make it to that one viewpoint you have been picturing for months. And the closer you get, the harder it becomes to turn around, even as your body is quietly begging you to. The goal takes over. Common sense goes silent, and people push straight past the point of no return, chasing a finish line that was never worth their life. Then there is the competence trap, and this is the most important thing we can tell you. Fitness is not immunity. Margaret Bradley could run a marathon, and the canyon still took her in an afternoon. Being strong does not protect you from the heat. If anything, it can make you more dangerous to yourself, because strong people trust their bodies completely. They go further, descend deeper, and carry a thinner margin of safety, precisely because they are used to their bodies never letting them down. The canyon is the place where that trust runs out, far from the rim, on a day that started out perfect. There is another quiet assumption that gets people killed, and it comes straight from how safe the place looks. People believe that if something goes wrong, help is close. They saw the rangers at the top. They passed other hikers an hour ago. Surely someone will come. But down in the inner canyon, help can be hours away even after someone knows you are in trouble. A rescue helicopter cannot always fly in the worst heat of the day, when the thin, hot air gives the rotors nothing to grab. The very conditions that put you in danger are the same conditions that keep rescue from reaching you. Out there, you are far more on your own than the parking lot ever led you to believe. And underneath all of it sits the oldest bug in the human mind: optimism bias. The quiet certainty that the bad thing always happens to somebody else. You read about a death in the canyon, and some part of you thinks, well, they must have done something wrong. They must have been foolish, or unprepared, or unlucky. I would never. That thought, right there, that comforting little lie, is the single most dangerous thing you can carry to the rim. Because almost everyone the canyon has ever killed thought exactly the same thing on the morning they set out, feeling strong in perfect weather, with a plan they were sure would hold. One honest note before we close. This is not trip planning advice, and it is not a safety course. Conditions in the canyon change by the hour, and if you're ever standing at that rim yourself, the people to listen to are the rangers on the ground that day, not a video. Carry more water than you think you need. Carry salt and real food to go with it. Hike in the cool hours, not the furnace of the afternoon. Know that going down is the easy half, and plan every step around the climb back up. And when the canyon tells you to turn around, listen to it. Because down is optional and up is mandatory. We tell you all of this not to scare you away from the Grand Canyon. We tell you because it is one of the great wonders of this entire planet, and you should go and you should stand at that edge and feel the sheer, humbling size of the world. It deserves your awe. It just also deserves your respect, and the two are not in conflict. The people who come home with the best day of their lives are almost always the ones who treated it with both. Because here is the truth we have watched play out more times than we can count. The Grand Canyon is not trying to kill anyone. It is not cruel. It is not hunting the people on its trails. It has no idea that you are even there. It is simply being what it has been for millions of years, older than almost anything you can name, carved slow and deep and utterly indifferent to the soft, warm, hopeful creatures who come to look at it for an afternoon. It does not push you, it does not chase you, it just waits in the heat at the bottom of that beautiful drop while you decide how much to trust yourself. And the danger you should have feared the whole time you stood safe behind that railing was never the edge in front of you. It was the walk down.